most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Don't Get Left in the Dust, right here on LA Talk Radio.
This is Paula G. for Don't Get Left in the Dust, a forum to inspire, educate, and entertain. We're here every Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here in Sherman Oaks, California on LA Talk Radio. If you can't follow us every Sunday or can't join us on Sunday live, the show is podcast. Just go to LA Talk Radio, Google LA Talk Radio, schedule one, and there I am at 12 p.m. Today we're going to profile something exciting because I love dogs. My best friends are dogs too. We're going to profile a nonprofit organization called Camp Cocker Rescue. Our guest today is Kathy Stanley. She's the founder and president of Camp Cocker Rescue. And I want to give a little background before I introduce Kathy. I was coming to the studio one day, and I saw her volunteers across the street with all these cockers, and I had to talk to them, and I thought this would be great for them to come on. So we're going to talk a little bit about her nonprofit and how, if you're interested, to come on in and help them, and we'll give you websites if you want to help them, and the special needs for cockers too, the sweet little cute puppies, doggies too, as well. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Paula, thanks so much for having me on.
Before we get into the questions, I'd like to have the audience get to know you. So just give us a little bit of how you got started, a little bit where you came from, and why you started this a little bit.
Well, my background professionally, for 12 years, I was a personal assistant to various celebrities in Los Angeles, and from there, I slowly became an entrepreneur and a small business owner. I have a small business I run here in Los Angeles called Pooch Potty.
That would be another show.
That is another show.
I'm interested. Pooch Potty. I'd really love to know what that is.
When you gotta go, you gotta go. And then, slowly through the years, I dabbled in animal rescue, just one dog at a time, and eventually it became 2 dogs at a time and 3 dogs at a time, and then now here we are with Camp Cocker Rescue, and I'm so glad you got to meet some of the team Camp Cocker. I got some great volunteers.
Yeah,
and
you did.
They represent us well.
They were just across the street and looking, and they were trying to show cockers and get people to adopt them and so forth. And I just talked to them, and I love cockers. Well, I love all dogs, but they have such the sweetest faces in the world. I wanted to get a little bit now into what is Camp Cocker Rescue.
Well, Camp Cocker, what we do is we primarily rescue Cocker Spaniels and some other breed dogs on occasion. We rescue them from the high kill shelters in the Los Angeles region, and we once they come into Camp Cocker Rescue, we rehabilitate them medically. A lot of times we end up with medical needs dogs, which is why they're in the shelters, and we try to rehab them emotionally, spiritually, nourish their spirit, and then we rehome them. And we don't just rehome. What makes Camp Cocker special is we don't just, hand them to people outside of pet stores. Here, you want a dog. We really put a lot of thought and effort into rehoming them. And our goal is for some family out there to have a really nice pet that they are going to enjoy, and for a dog to have a really nice home. And we try. It's like matchmaking almost what we do.
Well, I think that's very true. Dogs are what they are pack animals. They've got to be, they're like buddies. They got to be with their buddies. I know if dogs don't see their masters, they have rejection issues. I've seen dogs. So yeah, there really has to be a match. Well, for any animal that's a pet, a domestic pet, but dogs definitely. There's such a special relationship with humans and dogs, and I think that's great. I wanted to kind of get into, how old is Camp Cocker?
It's not that old. I personally started doing animal rescue one dog at a time about 10 years ago, and it was August of 2005. I went down to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina and just showed up and helped. There was it was a big mess down there trying to do the animal rescue. And my experiences there, when I came back to Los Angeles, it occurred to me, I really want to be doing more than just one dog at a time. And that experience changed me. And, and it's been since I got back from New Orleans, I was rescuing 2, 3, 4 dogs at a time. And in early 2007, I formed my nonprofit rescue. At that time, I named it Katrina Dog Rescue. And it was shortly after that I actually started focusing on the niche of Cocker Spaniels as a breed.
We're going to get into why that is a little bit down the road in the interview interview here. I wanted to get into the nonprofit status you're in. You're a 501c3. But you call it's also Katrina Dog Rescue under that kind of umbrella. You sent me some information on this. I found it interesting. Under that Katrina, it's almost like grant money for that. Kind of explain a little bit about the Katrina Dog Rescue 501c3, how that kind of goes in and why you did what you did.
Well, if you're going to start an animal rescue group, your goal should be to get a 501c3 status. That way when people donate, they can get a tax deduction. It also legitimizes your rescue in a way. In early 2007, I didn't know at that time I was going to narrow it down to one breed. So I formed a 501c. I called it Katrina Dog Rescue in honor of the dogs from Hurricane Katrina and cats and animals. And it was probably within a year of that it became apparent to me that I was going to have to narrow my focus to one breed, because trying to do all breeds was really scattering and overwhelming. And at that point, I just started, I formed Camp Cocker Rescue, but it operates under the Katrina Dog Rescue 501c3 as a DBA. So people can donate to Camp Cocker or Katrina Dog Rescue, and they still get the tax deduction.
They can still get the tax. Would this be ongoing? Katrina's been quite a while now. It's 2005, wasn't it?
August 2005.
Yeah. So it seems to go on. So that title there, if people go into Katrina Dog Rescue, it will be further down as well, right?
Right. Well, we could just close that nonprofit and start a new nonprofit under the actual name Camp Cocker, but I like the idea that, we're remembering our roots and what inspired me to really make a difference. And also in the future, under Katrina Dog Rescue, I could probably do a couple other things. I want to, at some point, do a program of Seniors for Seniors where we just rescue really senior dogs and place them with senior citizens as a temporary, not where that senior citizen is responsible financially, but, we match them up as companions. And if the senior has to go into a senior assisted living center, then, the dog is safe with us, comes back to us. But that's down the road. And that would be something I would start under that Katrina Dog Rescue.
So it sounds like going kind of a little back to your passion, Katrina was the focal point or the ignition, so to speak, for you to do this.
For me personally, it opened my eyes to a lot of things.
That was the spark.
Right.
Okay. I wanted to talk about the next step is why Cockers? Why did you narrow the breed to Cockers?
Well, one of the dogs I brought back from Hurricane Katrina, I brought back a few pit bulls. One of the dogs I brought back was a very senior Cocker Spaniel named Muffin. She was blind. She was filled with heartworms, and she was emaciated. Her hair was gone from demodectic mange. And she was such a big project for me to rehab. She went on to live 2.5 years, and everyone said she wouldn't live 3 months. She was such a project for me, and in honor of her almost, I began looking more at Cockers in shelters. And as I found more Cockers in the shelters, I realized if I just focused on that one breed, I could learn more about one breed and educate adopters more about a particular breed. And I could be of more service to prospective adopters if I just focused in on one thing and learned it really well.
It's interesting because each breed seems to have its own unique situations or problems, and that's what we're going to go into now. Is we all see Cocker Spaniels. I think of Cockers as Lady and the Tramp, the famous classical animation from Disney. I don't think it's an accident. I could be wrong on this. I don't think it's an accident that Lady was a Cocker Spaniel. I always remember the line when she was a puppy and the mistress of the house got her, her Christmas package, and it was a little puppy, and she goes, "What a lovely little lady." And they're so sweet. So I think with Cockers, I always think of that because they look like little ladies, even the boy. We know there's boy Cockers, but they have such sweet faces. My mother had a Cocker years ago. I wanted to kind of talk about that. There seems to be the information you gave me when I interviewed you before and your volunteers. Is there a sense of overrun of Cockers or Cockers being abandoned?
Well, I would say, first of all, that sweet little dog in Lady and the Tramp inspired a lot of breeding of Cockers.
Interesting. Yeah, that would have. It always creates interest with movements to it.
There was a time when I think, gosh, I don't know historically if this is accurate, but I think in the 50s and the 60s, Cocker Spaniels might have been one of the top family dogs at that time. And the problem is, I can speak to what is going on in today's shelters with Cockers. You walk into a shelter, everyone says, "Oh, there's just pit bulls and chihuahuas." Well, there's a lot of Cockers too. It's not, the percentage is not as high as pit bulls and chihuahuas. But the reason there's so many Cockers in our shelters here is that people are badly breeding them. Puppy mills, backyard breeders, pet stores are selling them. The breed is being badly bred, and so the problem is they're not being bred for temperament anymore. So you have Cockers with handling issues, Cockers who are not good with small children, and you have a lot of potential for medical problems that can come up at any time over the life of a Cocker Spaniel. Ear infections, skin problems, disc disease, the eyes, oh my goodness. I tell everyone who adopts, if you're going to get a Cocker Spaniel, make best friends with an ophthalmologist, a doggy ophthalmologist, because chances are in your dog's lifetime, you're going to be making some visits there.
You kind of sent me a lot of information that the Cockers, as we stated before, the Cockers have their own special problems, medical problems. And I wanted you to kind of go a little more detail into what are their special. You talked about the eyes, but there were some other issues that Cockers have. Is this all due to the way they're being bred now, that they're breeding them too much or too fine? First, let's kind of go into the other problems of the Cockers.
Well, I can talk. I guess. Well, first of all, like the chronic ear infections. Part of that is bad breeding. Part of it is they have long ears. They're floppy and hang down, and the air can't get in there. To maintain a Cocker's ears, the first thing you gotta do is clean them out every week, flush them out, get a nice organic ear cleaner. Check them every day if you have a Cocker that's prone to ear infections. The other way proactively to prevent ear infections is nutrition and diet. And if you just read everything you're feeding that Cocker Spaniel, the food, the treats. People don't often think to look at their treat bags. Eliminate wheat, eliminate corn, eliminate grains. And if you have a Cocker that has chronic ear infections and you just start with the food ingredients and just go for eliminate those ingredients, you're probably going to see some results like right away.
Sounds like they need a gluten-free diet. Is that what they need?
Don't we all need that, Paula?
Yeah, that's probably true. That's where you gain the weight. But is that common, not just in Cockers, with your background? Do you think that's something that people who have all different breeds should look at?
Probably. And again, it's a topic for another show, but
yes, but just can touch on it a little bit. I mean, I found that interesting. That kind of came as a surprise.
People who have dogs and cats should just go on Google it, read about dog food manufacturing, and read what ingredients are when it's stuff they probably don't want to know about. But if you learn to read ingredients and what you're feeding your pets, and learn what to avoid, you can save a lot of long-term health problems. Even cancer, latent life cancer. If you're trying to focus on health and longevity and reading those food ingredients, your dog's going to have a better chance at not getting diseases late in life.
So it's kind of good. You still have to do the research with all of this, really, if you want to care and really take. I think sometimes people with dogs think you just feed them and that's it. That there isn't more to it. It's like having a child, and it's another member of your family. So you need to be as concerned
Absolutely.
And I wanted to get into what we had talked about before. What exactly is background breeding yards? We talked about the breeding issues, but there's one that I have seen several documentaries on TV about these horrible puppy mills and this overbreeding and also the cruelty. They're in these caged and they've gone after them. So what are these background breeding?
Backyard breeding.
I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
What did I say? Backyard breeding. I said guarding, didn't I? Okay.
We all knew what you meant. I mean, backyard breeding. Some people call themselves hobby breeders. It's all the same thing. Basically, a legitimate ethical breeder is one thing, and that's a breeder who has done genetic testing on both of the parents. They've traced their lines back to make sure they're not inbred and inline breeding. They've done full health exams, and if a professional ethical cocker breeder is going to breed two cockers, they're going to have their hips checked, their eyes checked, and they're going to know their history. If they have history of cataracts or glaucoma or cherry eye or so a good ethical breeder, you can't get a dog from fast. It's usually a 1 to 2 waiting list. They don't advertise on Craigslist because they have a waiting list. They don't need to advertise. So that's a good ethical breeder. Everyone else is backyard breeder, whether they call themselves hobby breeders or whatever they do. Excuse me. Backyard breeders aren't doing any of that health screening. Especially here in Los Angeles, a lot of the backyard breeding is going on in the low-income areas because people need money and it's a fast way to make cash. You can get a cocker puppy in downtown LA. You can buy one if you have $200 cash. You can get a 5-week-old cocker puppy out of a box on the street corner. And of course, these are dogs that are being bred, mothers with daughters, fathers with daughters, mothers with sons, litter mates are being bred. We got 3 cockers out of the shelter last year they were 8 weeks old. They'd been turned into the shelter by the breeder because he couldn't sell them. They all had cherry eye, and so they were damaged goods. And you see that a lot, that people are just breeding them for the cash. And because this is going on in our low-income areas, their customers are other low-income people. Their neighbors, so the neighbors and the friends who are all low income, they're like, oh, this is great for $200. I get a cute cocker puppy for my kids. And then as soon as the dog has medical problems, they can't afford a vet, so the dog ends up in the shelter. So that's where I'm finding these dogs in the shelters. They've been owned by someone who couldn't afford to vet them.
That's what it's so important. Why I want to get out the education is that dogs need care just like a human being. So if you don't want to give the time, can't have the money, don't do it.
Exactly.
Don't go out and get any animal until you're ready to do it because it's, like you say, it's not fair. They'll see a cute little puppy and just think they have to feed it. No, you have to get the shots and everything. There's so many different diseases out there that the poor dogs can get. The parvo, I don't think I'm pronouncing. Parvo.
Parvo, distemper.
And all of that. I've seen the parvo is horrible, what it does to the dogs. So it's very, very important that we get out the message when you do get ready to buy a puppy or a dog, that you really do your homework and you're ready. That internal thing, they're cute. I'd love to have a dog, but can I take care of it? That needs to be the question first.
Right.
Because I go around and see all these, like your cockers, and I would love to adopt, but in my position right now, the best thing for me, and I love my cats. I miss a dog. I love cats and dogs. I love all furry animal. But I can't right now give the time because dogs are much more needy than cats. Cats can be a little bit on their own. I give them affection and feed them, make sure they're okay, but they can kind of be on their own a little bit. Then dogs just want to be with their buddies all the time. They want to be with their masters all the time. So I think it's very important out there that we really get the message across. They're cute. It takes work. It's part of your family. They're helpless. They depend on you to survive, and that's everything. So please think first before you do it. You can help out.
Right.
If you want to be around dogs, help out. Like with Kathy's organization that way until you're ready to do it. I wanted to back up just a little bit. You talked about something that popped in my head. With your organization, do you have a partnership with shelters? Do you send out something? Do you call them up and see, or do you just go out and check? How do you communicate with all these? You talked about high-kill shelters. I want to talk about that a little bit. I know there's some that are no-kill shelters, but I want to talk about how you coordinate that, or do you talk to them and send out anybody who's brought a cocker in? Please call us if you're at the close of killing them. How does that work?
I can speak to how the shelters work around our region, and I know I hear in other parts of the country this is not always true, but we monitor, Camp Cocker monitors about 30 shelters within a 150-mile radius of Los Angeles. It's a lot of shelters. They're all high kill, very high kill. Some of the shelters, the animals are kept alive for the 5-day stray hold. And there are some shelters, like in the San Bernardino County, where they'll keep them alive for the 5 days. They put them up for adoption on the 6th day, or actually on the 5th day, they go for adoption. If they don't get adopted by day 6 or 7, they put them to sleep. So it's pretty quick. I often try to take cockers out of those county shelters before the other shelters. There's very few shelters that we monitor. They're all municipal shelters, city shelters, county shelters. There's very few that will call us. We have to monitor the shelters. I have a couple volunteers. That's all they do. They go online every day and they look at the pictures of the dogs coming in the shelters. I mean, all the dogs coming in every hour, every minute. You can go to any shelter and stand in the lobby, and every 15 minutes someone's walking in and turning in a dog or a cat. And it's often a family event. They'll bring the kids and the wife, and it's heartbreaking because they're teaching their children this is what we do when it's no longer convenient to have a pet, and we'll just get one in a year when we want a puppy again. Anyway, so we have to monitor the shelters. On an average day, the 30 shelters we monitor, between 4 and 6 cockers are entering the shelter system. A couple weeks ago, it was a bad day. 14 cockers entered the shelter system in one day. It was pretty brutal. We can't save all those dogs. Camp Cocker is mostly me by myself and a few volunteers. We're not a majorly well-funded organization. If it's a good month for us, if we get a lot of donations, I can rescue maybe 8 or 10 dogs. If it's a bad month, I can only rescue 4 or 5. So I feel like we're not even making a dent. So much of this is educating people. Please don't stop buying dogs and cockers, or just stop buying from backyard breeders. Stop buying from pet stores. The pet stores are getting their dogs from the backyard breeders and the puppy mills. And go into your local shelter, and you can get puppies in a shelter. Every shelter has puppies.
Yes.
If you have to have a puppy. But a lot of these dogs are in the shelters due to not their fault. They're good dogs that were failed by humans.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, because that's pretty much, again, we're back to that discussion that human beings look at, oh, it's a cute puppy. And then when the cute puppy is gone and realize this is work, then we dump it. And you're right, it's a really bad sign to kids. It's a bad example to kids on how we treat animals and treat other life on this planet. So it's very, very important that when you're ready to do a dog, this is a family discussion, or if you're single, you really need to talk to other. Do your due diligence first before you go in. You talked about that, because I've gone in, I've always wondered about the pet stores. Are there reliable pet stores that you can trust that they don't deal, or are all of them dealing with the backyard breeders, or are the puppy mills that I know certain companies, but again, I guess it's going back to the internet. Can you kind of give a... And be honest, it's fine. I really want to get this information out there so people make the right decision. And if it means avoiding some of these puppy, pet stores, please do.
Well, I had to laugh because no legitimate breeder sells their dogs in a pet store because they have waiting lists. So basically, don't buy any live animal in a pet store. That's bottom line. They're getting supplied by backyard breeders, puppy millers, people, just breeding, and selling these puppies. The puppies from the puppy mills, the mother dog lives its life in a cage. It's not a pet. It doesn't get to run around and move its legs. It's living its life in a cage. Sometimes we'll rescue dogs that have been used. They've been breeder dogs, and a lot of the mommy dogs we rescue have hernias over and over. With one dog, we had to have 3 hernia surgeries done on her. She can't control her bladder very well, so she was really hard to adopt out, but she got a great home who worked with her. So when you're going into a pet store and you're going to buy a puppy, know that you are supporting a business where when you give your money to that pet store, they're going to turn around and buy more puppies from the puppy mill, and that mommy dog is going to be bred over and over. So you're actually supporting cruelty to animals. You can think, well, I'm rescuing this puppy, it needed a home, but actually, if everyone just immediately boycotted buying puppies from pet stores, the money wouldn't be coming in. The pet stores would stop selling them. They'd give them to rescue groups to rehome. The puppy mills would have nowhere to sell their puppies, and the whole business model would be put out of business. But it's not going to happen until everyone collectively makes that decision. I'm not going to give my money to live animals to a pet store.
I didn't think it was all of them. I always thought maybe there might be some upstanding pet stores.
Well,
pet stores, and that you just have to figure out which ones are the better ones. But I guess all of them, they're creating. It's a business, so they have to have an industry that pumps these puppies out, because it's like pumping out a chair to them.
Right.
Which
a
really
breeder, they don't need the pet stores to sell their product. It's a waiting list to get a dog from a good breeder.
So then that's what I kind of want to get into. If you decide, I can do it, I want a dog, you're a responsible person. Let's make that clear. You're a responsible person, because you're dealing with a animal that is needy. You've got to take care of it the way you would a child. You decided to do it. What would be your recommendation? To go to a shelter to rescue a dog, to go to shelters to look for that dog that you want to adopt, so we can stop the puppy mill kind of thing?
Right. There's so many options if you want to support animal rescue. You can go directly to an animal shelter and get a dog that way, and that's quick, easy. Most municipal shelters, you just come in, you buy a dog, and leave. There's no even a screening process. You can go to an animal rescue organization, and animal rescue organizations like Camp Cocker, there's so many varieties of animal rescue organizations. Some do minimal, some will put a minimal amount of work into the dog. They'll go to the shelters and get like the cute young adoptable dogs, spend a week or 2 with them, get to know them, and then just let you adopt them in front of a pet store. No application, no home check, no screening process. There's a lot of those rescues, and we all call ourselves rescues. So as an adopter, you really need to research who you're working with and who you're getting a dog from. And then there's rescue organizations like ours, where we really make a sincere effort to match the dog up to the home. And that, of course, involves doing a home check, meeting all the members of the family, talking to them about what their expectations are in a dog. What's their lifestyle? Do they want a dog that's going to need to go on a hike an hour every day or go running? Or do they want a dog that's going to be mellow, sleep a lot, and just need a stroll around the block? So, and personality-wise, too, we got to match up the dogs to the home. If there's children in the home, that's a whole nother issue. We got to be really responsible. When there's children in the home and you're adopting any dog to them, you just got to be really, really responsible. And, often if we see a home with children under the age of 6, unless we have a Cocker Spaniel that we 100% know can tolerate any sort of hugging, handling, hanging on, crawling over, we're just going to discourage those people from this breed. I always tell people with little kids, hey, maybe go for a more durable breed like a golden retriever, a Labrador, even a pit bull. As funny as that sounds, pit bulls have better temperaments than Cocker Spaniels.
Now there's a new information. Wow. That is something I think the listeners would go, I don't know, here's this cute little thing. And I think pit bulls have gotten a negative publicity.
Right. Well,
because they're aggressive. But I think they have been used by people for dog fights, and when you have an aggressive breed. But that's so interesting. You always equate cute faces with cute dispositions, and that doesn't work. It's like the koala, the marsupial. Everybody just wants to hold it, and they say, oh no, he can be quite nasty. So that's interesting about the temperaments of cockers. That's why it's so important to understand the breed you're getting.
They're not, I wouldn't say cockers are not aggressive. Well, actually, I wouldn't even label pit bulls as aggressive. People turn them aggressive. But some cockers are not comfortable with being handled by strangers rapidly or with kids. Like, the biggest way you can get a toddler to be bitten by a Cocker Spaniel, have your child hug that dog around the neck and clasp it around the neck, and that dog's going to bite the child. Mm-hmm. And I always tell parents, this breed can't handle the grabbing and the hanging on and the crawling over like a bigger breed would.
Interesting.
But it's a cute cocker's nothing cuter than a cocker.
Oh yeah, but I think again it's just understanding. We all kind of lump dogs the same, and they're different as people. They have different temperaments. They have different ways. Like some are much more better with kids, some aren't. So it's better not to bring a particular breed into for a kid. And kids are, no matter how much you teach them, under a certain age, they still like to pull the ears and do whatever and hug. They don't understand it. You have to reinforce them over and over. Would you say, from your experience, and not just cockers, but any other breed, would it be better for a family to wait with kids, maybe after the age of 6, before bringing a dog in? Or does it depend on the breed?
It depends on the family, actually, because if someone is not a dog person, hasn't had a dog before, and this is their first time having a dog, and they've got little kids, I tell them, why don't you just hold off, wait till the kids are 7, 8, because there's a learning curve to going from being a non-dog person to a dog person, and it's a lot of work. If someone's been a dog person their whole life, and having kids is not going to make it, they're going to always be a dog person, kids or no kids. If people have this idea that they want to raise a family of children with dogs, and I say, get a dog first. Get a dog a couple of years before you start having kids. Learn to be a dog parent, and then have your children come in the picture, and you can already have some dog skills and know how to supervise and teach your children at that point.
What would be really a good idea, and it can segue into the next question, is with that, what you just said about if you're a new dog owner, first-time dog owner, and your kids aren't, is to kind of go out and maybe work with these dog rescues that you like, and just go out, either walk them and have your kids get used to it. That way the organization has people coming and helping, and that helps you kind of decide, well, do we do it now or should we wait until the kids? I think that's a great idea. It has to be a gradual type of thing. Again, it goes back to the people just think, oh, it's a cute little dog, dumb little animal, we can do that. But no, it's a lot more work. And if you really care, then you need to do your due diligence, as I said before. So it's very interesting.
It's an excellent idea to go as a family and go volunteer, even at an animal shelter. I know a lot of rescues and shelters probably won't let you volunteer with very little kids just because of the liability.
Right.
But if you have older children, it's such a great way to give back and like just walking dogs on the weekends for a shelter and expose your children to all the different breeds of dogs, and you're teaching your children, to be, give back to society and be open to all these adult dogs rather than, little kids are like, oh, we want a puppy. But if you're exposing them to all the dogs in the shelters that need homes and teaching them there's something to love in all dogs of all ages, it's a great thing for your family.
I think it's because there's so many organizations out there, and when you do work with animals or something, whether horses or I love all animals, so I took horseback riding lessons. That was a dream of mine, and I had to take care of the horse in every aspect, including cleaning his pants.
That's fun.
But you do it with dogs and you do it with cats as well. But I kind of wanted to ask you a little back. Gave me thought of another interesting question is, suppose someone really would like to start working with dogs like you did. They were in one industry, and now I would love to train, or I'd love to work. What would you recommend to get them? I mean, just being a dog lover is not enough.
Right.
What did you do to get started? I know I'm backtracking a little bit, but you kind of came up with some interesting thing. If somebody goes, I can't really have a dog, but I like to work with them, with an organization until I'm ready to have a dog on my own.
Right. It's unlimited, the things that you could get involved in. And
what about training?
Training. Well, if you know, the best way to learn how to train a dog, if you don't have a dog, go to your local rescue group and say, hey, do you have a dog in your rescue group that I'll go sign up and take them to an obedience class every week for the next 6 weeks? Why not? That dog's going to get some obedience training, going to become more valuable to someone who might adopt it, and you're going to learn some skills on dog training.
That's interesting, yeah. Because there really isn't a school. It's just kind of you did it really on your own. Really, it's just kind of your own self-education.
And just learning and asking questions and being teachable. And being teachable is the biggest thing, honestly. There's people who've been doing rescue twice as long as me who think that they know everything, and I'm not going to know everything if I do this another 20 years. Everything is... you got to be teachable and figure out what you do know, what you don't know. When you don't know something, go out and ask and learn it and find someone to mentor you or take a class.
Yes, one of my teachers said, be a lifelong learner.
Exactly.
That's in everything. I think it's everything, including this. I wanted to go back to the Cocker Rescue. If somebody listening to the show wants to adopt a Cocker and would love to do it through you, how does that work? What's the process of getting a Cocker Spaniel from Cocker Rescue?
Well, the process is the same no matter where you live. Oh. In fact, if you volunteer for us, you still have to get approved as an adopter. And we've had volunteers who sadly wanted to adopt and for one reason or another just it wasn't the right time in their lives, we felt, for them to bring a dog into the home. You go on our website, it's campcocker.com. And there's an entire page that describes our adoption process. You should read the whole thing and understand how we screen adopters. Then if you want to adopt from us, you start with the adoption application, which is online. It's pretty lengthy, and you'll see by the kinds of questions we ask that we are asking these questions because we want to learn about the prospective adopter so that we can do a good match. We want the adopter to have a successful, happy experience with the dog they end up adopting. We don't want to just adopt the first dog to them and then not care what their life's going to be like, because it's a commitment. Like you said, a Cocker Spaniel can live up to 16 years, so it's a long commitment if we're going to put a dog in someone's home. The next step is the adoption application. Then we have a phone interview. One of our volunteers calls and we get to know into details a little more about the adopter and learn more about their expectations, what they're looking for in a dog. And then we do vet reference checks, and then we do a home safety check. And the home safety check is for dog safety. We're not nosy. We're not like, ooh, we want to see what your house looks like. We want to know, is this a house that is dog proofed? We're looking at, if someone lives on a busy street, is their front door dog proofed in a way? If they have small kids, opening and closing that door. Is the gate locked in the backyard? What day does the gardener come? Does he come in and leave the gate open? So it's dog proofing, dog safety issues. And once the adopter goes through that whole process and we feel like, we want to place a dog in their home, then we start talking about matchmaking. We talk about the dogs we have and try to match them up to a dog that is an appropriate age for their lifestyle, an appropriate energy level. And we've adopted dogs out as far away as Canada and Alaska, and in every situation we had a dog go to Alaska, and one of our volunteers lives in Anchorage. We called her and said, will you drive 3.5 hours one way to do a home check for us? And she said, you got it. I'll make a day of it and I'll bring a friend. So that's pretty amazing that we have volunteers willing to go to any lengths to help us get a dog into a good home.
I think most Americans love their dogs. It's like with the football player who had the dog, I forgot his name, it's terrible, who had the dog fighting.
Oh,
and
we don't need to say his name.
No. They were more hard on him than probably if he did something with drugs or something, that really chaps Americans hides when they see cruelty toward animals. That's interesting. I didn't know that about Camp Cocker, that rescue, that you have people throughout the country. It's just not in the Los Angeles area.
Right.
So you do have. How does that work? The main hub is here. So how does that person in Alaska? Do they have their own little? They created their own little shelters, and you guys talk?
We have the lady, the adopter, who she adopted a dog from us named Shakespeare, who is a pretty special medical rehab dog, and he touched a lot of our hearts. And oh my goodness, we cried when he left because we were like, we're never going to see Shakespeare again. But he went to a great home. Anyway, she inquired about adopting. And we got her an application, and at first we saw Alaska, and we're like, oh boy. And then we read the application. It was so clear that this was a phenomenal home. And you just can tell, dog people, you can't fake that. You can't fake being a dog person. It just jumps right out at you from the application, and we couldn't deny Shakespeare the opportunity. So we have a volunteer who lives in Anchorage, Alaska. And so she was willing to do the home check. She made a day of it, drove out there, and then after that we set up where Shakespeare got a ride up. We sent him up on Alaska Air, and then he had to get to the adopter. So we actually had, she drove into Anchorage. The adopter drove that 3.5 hours to get there to pick him up at the airport. It was pretty amazing.
That's interesting. Do you get requests from all over the country then?
We do.
Do you have other volunteers that want to help you in those other states, or? We
can always use more volunteers anywhere. But if we get a good adoption application from somewhere in the country that we don't currently have a volunteer near, we will try and find someone through. Facebook is great. We contact local rescue groups. Like if someone did an application from North Dakota. Well, I don't know anyone in North Dakota. Well, I'll go on the website, I'll go on the internet and look for rescue groups in North Dakota, and I'll look for a rescue group that does home checks, a good one, not just a rescue that sells dogs outside of a pet store. And I'll contact them and I'll say, hey, can you help us out? Can you go do a home check for us? And most times other rescue groups that are good will definitely help out, and we work together like that.
Well, that's great that you can extend out to help and check out those areas, because there's no way you can I can do it. I'll just take a 5-day drive and go down there. So that's great that you can reach out. I wanted to talk a little bit about how people can help. Furthering up, segueing into that, if people either through donations, which is needed, but also reach out, not just in the Los Angeles, since you can reach out and you want to adopt out Cocker Spaniels, maybe somebody outside the Los Angeles and outside of California want to do it. If anybody wants to be a volunteer and help out, let's talk about how they can do that in whatever aspect, whether it's donations or whether it is here if they live in the Los Angeles, or if they want to come and help you, or if they live out in the state. How does that work for each of those scenarios?
Well, anyone who wants to help, we can find a way for you to help. It doesn't matter where you live. If you are somewhere and you have internet access, well, heck, help us fundraise. I mean, we're trying to reach a goal of getting, and we're trying to get monthly donors, and you can donate monthly for as little as $10 a month and really make a difference. $10 doesn't sound like a lot. They're like, oh, that's 33 cents a day. But you know what? If we had 1,000 people donating $10 a month, do you know how many more dogs we could be saving? The impact would be enormous. And so if someone just has internet access, hey, help us with some fundraising. Send out emails. We do little rescue videos. Blast the internet with rescue videos saying, please donate. We have a couple dogs going into surgery on Tuesday that have major ear surgeries. We had a dog that had a leg amputation last week that we still have to pay his bill on. So we always need donors. And, the best way to fundraise is online. So anyone can help us with fundraising. We have volunteers all over the place. We have one of our volunteers lives in Pennsylvania, Doreen, and she calls the shelters for us and checks on dogs, and she keeps our blog updated. We have a blog on our website, Cockers and Shelters, and also our volunteer Jill, who lives in LA, is a part of that blog, getting that set up. And we also have volunteers in Canada that help us with shelter phone calls. They help us with adopter interviews. So there's a lot you can do if you don't live in Los Angeles. If you live in Los Angeles, oh my gosh, we need so much help. We need help, taking dogs to vet appointments, taking dogs to the groomer, walking our dogs. We have some dogs in boarding across the street here at Canine Loft, and they would just love a little walk. Like if someone could just come by once a week and take them to the park. There's so much that you can do, and you don't have to live in Los Angeles to be a part of the solution.
That sounds great, because I think a lot of times, like I said, if people can't give money, they can give the time. And the time is just the money you need to pay the bills. But there needs to be hands as well on this. So I wanted to, it's interesting that you have reached out beyond Los Angeles and the state of California, because cockers are all over the place here. I did want to kind of go into a little bit. We have maybe about 3 or 4 minutes. And we talked about information websites. Are there any other websites that you have not mentioned if people want to reach out? Is there any other?
If they want to reach out, well, there's campcocker.com, which is us. If they're not in the region, they want to find dogs in shelters, a good website to go to is petharbor.com, PETHARBOR.com. And Pet Harbor pulls in pictures off of shelter websites into one location, so you can actually put in your zip code and find dogs in shelters all around your region, which is great, and you can search it by breed. And another way that, other websites they should look at, there's a good nutrition website called dogfoodproject.com, and that's just phenomenal. You can put in your food that you're feeding your dog, put it in, and look at the ingredients, and it analyzes it for you. And then, of course, just going to any local shelter in your region, any local rescue group, and saying, what can I do, how can I help? And if you're going to help a rescue group, ask questions. Find a good rescue group. Don't just volunteer for someone who's not the real deal, who's just selling animals outside pet stores. Sign up for the group that's really doing the hard work and screening adopters and doing right by the dogs, and making sure that they're making the right choices for where that dog's going to spend the next 10 years of its life.
So what is your goal for the end of the year for this rescue? Are there any more expansions that you're doing, or is there something coming up? For you, for the organization?
Well, my goal is to be able to get better at fundraising. Unfortunately, I'm very weak at that. I spend all of my time doing the physical tasks of the rescue, and I really need help with fundraising. And I need more volunteers who can just work on that, so I don't have to stress out about how we're going to pay for upcoming surgeries. And I'd love to I have a personal goal to get us to 1,000 monthly donors a month. And gosh, if we got to that goal, it would be a really big achievement. It would alleviate a lot of stress. And we also have something else we're going to start fundraising for called Maddie's Fund, and that's a whole other story. But there was a really special dog named Maddie that we had to put to sleep a couple weeks ago, and we rescued her a little over 2 years ago, and she had a degenerative neurological disease. And we want to start Maddie's Fund, which our goal is to get $5,000 in that fund, and that will be truly for real emergencies, so that I can make quick decisions about dogs that need to go to the emergency room, a dog that might need an MRI that's $1,800, or a dog that might need back surgery. I want to have that fund so I can make fast decisions to save dogs that normally I have to leave in the shelter because I just don't have that money.
So for all of you out there, we're almost out of time. Kathy, thank you for coming in. This has been great. And come back again.
Thank you, Paula.
Because there's so much information, not just on cockers, but on how we have to educate ourselves so we can protect our best friends.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. For all of you out there in the universe, LA Talk Radio, I want to thank you for joining us, and if you can't hear us, podcast. If you can't join us, every Sunday at 12 p.m. It's podcast. If you would love to work with Kathy, and I know she would, especially if you're a great fundraiser, contact Camp Cocker Rescue.
CampCocker.com.
Yes, go on there, and you can just do the information that you need to help them out. I encourage you to do it. They are sweet dogs. They need a lot of help, and she's a great person in wanting to help these dogs. Also, out there, if any of you would like to promote any of your nonprofit organizations or your business, please contact me. I'd love to come on and we can use this great new marketing, distribution, promotion type technology using old-fashioned radio with internet, and we can get your project going or your business or your event or your organization like Kathy's. So out there, take care. Have a great rest of the Sunday. Please move forward. Do not get left in the dust, and we'll be back next Sunday with another great guest.
You're listening to Don't Get Left in the Dust right here on LA Talk Radio.